People believe that the best communicators are the ones who can speak for hours on end without a pause. And that's the problem because, hey guys, Robin and welcome back to my YouTube channel. And today's video is all about how we can communicate to each other. We've been taught this a lot. Everybody's told us about how we can communicate with others, how it's so important that we need to learn how to communicate. But there's one thing, nobody actually tells you what it is you're exactly supposed to do. Have they ever told you what kind of questions you're supposed to ask? What is the important cues that you need to look out for in a conversation? Nobody tells you all this, but everybody does tell you to learn how to communicate. So if you are that person who's heard this a million times but has never found the answer, this is that video for you. Stick around and you're gonna find out everything that I've learned on my journey from basically zero communication skills to, well, somewhat decent skills. So stick around and find out right now. Now, I'm pretty sure that most of us know that communication is the key to anything you want. So if you want a relationship with somebody, or if you want to build contacts with somebody, or if you want to build something meaningful, you need to be able to communicate to the other person so that they actually understand what you're trying to convey, right? And for this, you need to understand, look at everybody else around you, and you'll understand exactly why, especially in this generation, you see many people are unable to keep up a conversation. Now, I'm not talking about these long 1 hour, 2 hour discussions where you go in depth into the person's beliefs and inner ideas. I'm talking about the simple, surface level small talks. Some people are unable to even do that. You know why that is? My belief is that that's because of the environment around them. So let's take the normal level. So in the normal level, you have most of the people out there and they are just trying to make do, right? So they don't want to keep a long conversation. And when you see the environment around you just like that, you're going to fall into the same trap. In fact, that's why I would say it's much more important that you build the skill of communicating with others right now. Because if you can communicate in this world, you'll be more successful than anybody else has been with this skill in any other generation before this. So what you need to do is understand different things and how important communication is and what things are important to understand how to communicate well. See, let's take me for instance. When I was 15, 16, I'm not kidding, my communication levels were zero. And when I mean zero, I couldn't even open a conversation, a simple conversation, I couldn't open it. And that was my problem for a long time. It took me till the age of probably 17 years old or 18 years old where I started figuring cues out. Now, how did I do this? Simple. The answer was observe people. So when you don't know anything or if you're socially awkward, what I need you to do is to go and observe people around you, right? Especially those people who are confident in speaking. If you can surround yourself with them, observe the things that they do, observe the few body language habits that they employ. Now, I'm not saying copy them, but try to practice this while you have a conversation with somebody else. And the most important thing is that you'll have to be practicing this regularly, right? So you can't be afraid of failure and stop when you feel a bit awkward with others because that's going to draw you back a lot. So what you have to do is actually push yourself and go get yourself out there, talk to people and use these cues that you find from other people, and that'll help you a lot. And that's why I always say, whenever you go into a new situation, this is regardless of whether you're trying to communicate or not, it's about reading the room. What are the people around you saying? How do they think? What are they believing in? And after you have a lay of the land, only then do you react to any situation. So this is not just for communication, but going back to this example, in the case when I started doing this and observing people, I realized that it's not only that people don't want to maintain a healthy conversation, but it's rather that they don't know how to do this. Because I can see that some people are trying to lay cues, not as effective cues, but they're still trying. They're just not effective enough to do it. Not all of them are. And the thing is, you understand that you don't have to become this world-class orator to become a good communicator, because that's a very common misconception that many people have. People believe that the best communicators are the ones who can speak for hours on end without a pause. And that's the problem, because what you need to be able to do is not to be speaking out there, but rather listening, understanding what it is that other person is trying to tell you. And that's when you understand what they believe in and what their thoughts are. And when you make them feel heard, it's more like they believe you are speaking to them more. That's why, I don't know if you've heard this, whether that's with you or with other people, where somebody else has been asking you the questions throughout the conversation, And maybe eventually afterwards you tell a friend, oh, I had a chat with this guy, he is such a good communicator, he was letting me open up and I had such a good time with him, he's such a good communicator. You might have said this. Now you might not have understood at that time why that was, but it's simple. It's only because he was saying the right things, he was then asking the right questions, and that's why you felt that you were being heard. Let's take this for instance. If you and me are having a conversation and then I am telling you all about my accomplishments, how I went sea surfing over there and I went eating this food and I had this experience with my family, well, that's all fine. But what happens is you can't really relate to the experience. You know why? Because you weren't there. Because even if I talk about a mutual gathering that we had, maybe we went out with our friends and we had a good time, that still works. But if I'm going to talk about maybe my family experience where you weren't there and I keep telling you about this whole long story, well, people might seem to be interested. But the truth is that if you want to engage with the person, if you really want to communicate with that person, what you need to do is actually talk about their interests. What do they like? So what you need to become is the question asker and not the receiver. So you don't want to be the guy who relies on another person to start a conversation. Now, this is one thing I'm actually fortunate for because, like I said before, like 15 and 16 was kind of a quiet period in my life where I was just not able to start a conversation. And because I had to be the one to start conversations, so I had to learn the skill of asking questions to other people. And because that's the only way that other people would open up. So that was pretty important in my life because otherwise I wouldn't have a conversation. And if you learn these skills, especially early on, it's good. So in a way, I would say I'm sort of grateful for that experience, even though in that moment I thought it wasn't that good. And this skill has brought me forward ever since and has helped me a lot. And that's why, have you seen when you talk about somebody else's interest, it's almost like there's a twinkle in their eye. It's like something shines in them. Like they're glowing almost because they have excitement. They're excited to talk about themselves. There's this mechanism in the brain that's activated. When you talk about yourself, you feel more pleasure. So that's why people feel more content when you ask them questions about them. And that's why they say you're a good communicator. And that's it. If you can do that one thing, if you can communicate to them by asking them the right questions and leading a conversation on like that, and ask open-ended questions, which I'll cover in a segment in a while. If you can do that, then you can open up conversations no matter who the person is, and you can connect with the person even more because you're not engaging in your own experience, which you can't relate with, but rather you're asking them to share about their own experiences, which they will do with no trouble at all. So if you guys want to see improvement, I would say that's the first thing that you need to do. Now, I don't know if I was the only one who's done this, but when my conversation skills were pretty down here, what I did was actually search up on Google, what are the conversation starters to really excite the audience or the other person. Now, what I found was some pretty weird questions. I wouldn't say weird, but for a first conversation, it's pretty weird. Questions like, if you were to die tomorrow, what would you actually like to accomplish today? If money wasn't an object, where would you live today? These were the kind of questions I saw. And this is good, right? Don't get me wrong. These are good conversation continuers, but it's not a good conversation starter, especially if you've met the person. Imagine this is the first time you're meeting the person, and the first thing you ask is, if you're going to die tomorrow, what would you do? Can you imagine how weird that would sound? So trust me guys, don't do this at any cost. Don't look up on Google what are good conversation starters because they're horrible and they don't work, because I tried it and it doesn't work. So instead, what you guys can do is ask more open-ended questions right now. So I think it's better for you guys to understand this by visualizing an example of how to ask open-ended questions, right? So in the first scenario, you meet up with your friend Susan, who you haven't seen for a while, and she passes you by and asks, hey, how was your weekend? Now in the first scenario, you reply with, well, it was pretty okay. You know, me and my friends hung out a bit, and yeah, that's all we did pretty much this weekend. Now think of how dry it is. The conversation might just end there because there's no real cues. Okay, you hung out with your friends, cool, what do you do? But that's probably it. Now for the second scenario, when Susan comes up to you and asks, hey, how was your weekend? You can say, actually, this weekend was great because we went hiking on this new mountain trail we discovered and it was amazing. And also after that, we went to this new shopping mall which opened downtown, and then we found a new restaurant which we ate in, and it was really an eventful weekend and we loved it. Now, do you see the difference in the first scenario and the second scenario? What I needed to realize is what are the keywords being used, because in the first one you're just generalizing it. Yeah, we went out with our friends, we hung out, and it was pretty great. So all you have in that conversation is your friends. Okay, you hung out with your friends. Cool. What do we do? Yeah, we went hiking. You could lead on with that, but most people, especially if they're just casually speaking with you, they are probably not going to be interested much. But on the other hand, if you lay out the details early on, and if you cover hiking, this new restaurant, this new mall, now whether Susan's interested in hiking or not, she's probably going to be interested about this new restaurant because she'd want to try it. So then if you talk about this new restaurant, she's probably going to ask you, oh, where's this new restaurant, or where's this new shopping mall? I've not seen it. And then you tell her all about that, and then there's 3 different conversation leads in that one sentence. Whereas in the other one, all you can do is really talk about your friends, right? And you might not explain much in the first scenario, but in the second scenario, you've already given 3 cues of which she can go, out of which she's interested in. So if you can cover those 3, then you covered most of the bases, and then you can continue the conversation from there. So when you ask open-ended questions, leave as many conversational cues as you can. Now, there is no quick fix. There is nothing to memorize and say this to somebody, because the only way you can get this is through practicing it yourself in person, and eventually you're going to get masterful in this. So you can't expect results in day 1, 2, 3. It's all about consistency. Like I always say, consistency, keep practicing this and you will see results eventually. So if you guys are going to take away anything from this video, I need you to take away 2 things. So number 1, you need to be able to ask the right questions and also answer in the right way. So if somebody asks you a question, don't leave it blank. Be more mysterious, be more expressive in how you answer a question. Don't be very plain with it. Play a little bit with it and offer them more conversational cues so that they can be more interested in the conversation, and so will you. And the second thing that I need you to remember is that always listen before you speak. That applies for anything, not just for communication. If you're in an office room and if you're in a meeting, always listen to what other people are telling you rather than simply wanting to speak and make your voice heard. Because that's a mistake many people make. They believe that if they're the loudest speaker, everybody will think they're the smartest in the room. My friend, that's not it. What you need to be able to do is to understand the environment and then manipulate the environment from there. So just like that in conversation, if you want to become a master communicator, what you need to do is mastering the art of listening before you speak. So guys, with that, we've come to the end of this video. And if you guys found this to be useful, please go ahead and drop that like, subscribe to the channel and hit the notifications bell. And go ahead and share it with the friends, especially those who need that little push to push them back in the right direction. And also drop a comment about something you guys thought about this video. And remember guys, it's about listening more and speaking less. If you can remember this, then this video was very fruitful for you. So see you guys in the next video, and remember, never stop dreaming. See you all. So sharp, so freezing, so cold. Behold, frostbite, they feeling. I could tear you apart, or I could go heal them. Don't believe in fate, don't believe in ceilings. I just need a taste, and my mind starts peeling.